Hello there, welcome back to my channel. I am Chioma and I'm so happy that you're here. I'm really excited to speak about this topic. It really attributes to some of my personal experiences and I'm excited to share it with you all. So today I kind of want to talk about sustainability, like building sustainable routines, leaning into consistency and stepping away from extremism, okay? So there is a lot of talk about discipline over motivation and how that translates to the way that we live our lives and show up for ourselves. Being disciplined is often marketed as this intense way of living with a no-nonsense flair that does not really lend itself to balance, okay? While discipline innately is not a bad thing by any means, and it is actually necessary for us to really get anything done in our lives, there is a fine line between healthy discipline and outright extremism. So with that, we can kind of get into the topic of today's video, which is sustainability, as I mentioned. So this revolves around the things that we can sustain for an extended or even an indefinite period of time, okay? What this comes down to for us is our relationship to everything, how we relate to our routines, how we relate to the foods that we eat, the work that we do, the social environments that we engage in. All of this is based on how we feel when we participate in these activities, when we eat this certain way, when we work out for X amount of days, weeks, or months, and then what we get from these entities as well, right? Considering that relationships are supposed to be mutually beneficial in some way. And if we feel they are worth the effort and energy is going to determine how we feel about them. So you wouldn't be in a relationship that wasn't adding value to your life in some way, or if you weren't benefiting from it, at least in some area, right? Or at least I hope you wouldn't be, right? I hope you wouldn't be in a relationship where you weren't benefiting from it in some way. We've all been there, right? But that's not what this video is about. So this contributes to sustainability as well, how these things make us feel. By definition, sustainability is defined as the ability to be maintained at a certain level or rate. Okay, so whatever it is that you're doing to reach some goal or objective should not be something that will tire you out necessarily. You should not be giving 100% of your efforts or exerting excess energy for a big goal. Now stay with me here. I'm not saying that you should not work hard or diligently. I'm more so saying that you should also be working strategically as well. So this should come down to exerting smaller amounts of energy over however much time is needed. Go with me. Think of a car. Okay, your car is exerting more gas, in this case, energy, right? When it is going 40 miles per hour up a hill. Okay, versus going 40 miles per hour on flat land. The car is not going to get the same total mileage going up the hill because there is an added intensity from the incline. So to go those same 40 miles per hour takes more effort and energy, in this case, gas, right? We're seeing how they're interchangeable, how they're being related to one another from your car, right? It takes more gas from your car to go that same speed when there is a hill than when it's flat. So keeping this in mind, that car will run out of gas sooner if it tries to sustain that level of intensity for an extended period of time. So how sustainable your routine is determined by how long you can keep doing whatever that thing is, right? The reason this concept is of such grave importance is because most of the things we want and that are worth having require us to work overtime. We can think about fitness or higher education. These two, I'm not gonna lie, are some of my most favorite examples and I use them frequently because they're so readily available to me. But let's go. So I just finished my master's degree, right? And for the first 2 years of it, I was working full time. The master's degree took me 3 years total, right? I was a high school English teacher for the first year. And I even added in cheer coaching for the second year. So the first 2 years I worked full time, and the second year I was coaching as well as working full time. Okay. So I had to think about lesson planning, practices, basketball games, football games, grading my work for my students, while also trying to maintain my health and my academic responsibilities, okay? It ended up taking me 7 semesters total to complete my degree program. And for anyone wondering, my master's degree was 60 credits. So that gives you some context if anyone is familiar with higher education, but that's neither here nor there. So I started in the fall fall of 2022 and I finished in the spring of 2025, just recently, right? I could have finished much sooner if I wanted to. I could have taken more classes during any given semester. Two of the semesters, I only took 2 classes, right? There were other semesters that I took 3, and then some other semesters that I took 4. I think if I took 4 classes every semester, I would have graduated in 5 semesters instead of 7. How do you think, with all of the other responsibilities that I have, how do you think I would have held up if I had taken 4 semesters each time on top of everything else that I mentioned that I was doing? I probably would have crashed out. I probably would have lost my medulla. Like, I probably would not have been as effective of a coach or a teacher, right? If my academic load was more intense. I had to find a balance to ensure that I finished the job, right? I had to find that balance to ensure that I got somewhere, that I finished the job, that I completed what I started. So to add an even deeper layer to this, for the 3rd and final year of my master's degree, I was required to complete 700 hours of mental health counseling, aka therapy, right? And related activities, so note-taking, meetings, all these different things, treatment planning, in order to graduate. So I had to do 700 hours of those related activities in order for that degree to even be stamped and conferred, okay? So imagine adding 700 hours, right, over 40 weeks, because it was going to be like 2.5 semesters that I could get those 700 hours. Imagine adding 700 hours over a 40-week period, which would mean, if we do the math, 700 divided by 40, that would mean I would need to add an additional 17.5 hours of work to my already bonkers caseload when we talked about lesson planning, grading, parent-teacher conferences. We didn't even talk about that. Meetings. And then we also talked about cheer practices, basketball games, football games, field trips, like all these different things that were on my plate at the time. And then just showing up to teach class. Those are all the duties that I had outside of actually showing up every day to teach, okay? It would have been crazy, right? Knowing myself, it would have been much too much for me. So what did I do, right? I lightened the load for myself and I decided to quit my job. I know that not many people would have this luxury in this situation, and I'm very aware of that, right? I didn't have any debt from my bachelor's degree, which is my undergraduate career, right? I had only taken loans to cover the cost of my tuition for the first 2 years of my master's, right? So I didn't have that much student debt or academic debt that I was grappling with or fighting against, essentially. So I felt comfortable taking out larger amounts of loans to live on while I completed those hours to ensure that I wouldn't burn out. Which leads me to my next section of our discussion today. With so much pressure and intensity, we can only sustain that for a limited time, right? If we're going full throttle every day of the week, all the time, no breaks, there's always something to think about, always something to do. Excess amount of stress and pressure on you at every period of time. There's no freaking way that we'll be able to maintain that over the long haul, right? We're minimizing our longevity. So professional athletes, I'm a gymnastics fan, so that is the sport that I will refer to most naturally. So they are not in full routine shape at all points of the year. So most of y'all only follow gymnastics on a 4-year cycle or in the Olympics, but they actually train year round. There are competitions every year, but I'm gonna get a little bit into it. So they cycle their training so that their bodies have some time to rest or to kind of cycle through, different training ways. So they are still working out, they're still conditioning, they're still practicing individual skills and parts of their routines during other parts of the year, but they're only in full routine shape for maybe 4 to 5 months out of the year, right? They're still fit, they're still professional athletes, they're still high level athletes at the end of the day, but they aren't in their tip top peak form at every moment. So let's keep this in mind. This way of structuring our lives ensures that we can stay in the game longer. It prevents injury. In our case, if we apply this to our life and the things that we're living through, it prevents burnout, right? It gives us the opportunity to actually show up, prove ourselves when necessary, but handle everything at what is required, right? We don't always have to go above and beyond. We don't always have to be the best at everything. Sometimes your average is good enough. Sometimes what you bring to the table and just getting the job done, checking the things off the box is enough if you can do that every day. And I think about people who try to lose an excess amount of weight in a short period, right? So, and the reality is that they're going to have to work harder in that 3-month window, for instance, right? We're going to say 3 months than they would if they had not given themselves the deadline, right? And now, not to mention, timed goals are good. Putting a time limit on yourself is helpful and effective. It sometimes can light a fire under you. But we have to be realistic, right? The time is going to pass anyway. If you let the weight come off naturally with a sustainable lifestyle change, that likely is more feasible and less mentally taxing for you. Because what is almost inevitable to happen is that when you burn out, which you are likely going to, okay, let's be real here, all the efforts and progress you made will be undone because you are no longer doing this extreme form of exercise and dieting or whatever it is that you're doing that was required to get you to that point, right? If you stop doing the things that got you there rapidly, the minute you shift even slightly back, some of your results will be undone, right? If you stop doing the things that got you there, you won't really be able to stay there, is what I'm getting at. So yo-yoing, going up and down, becomes unavoidable at this point. Versus if you had chosen to implement a sustainable change, you would be able to maintain the gains and continue on your journey and keep up with your new habit rather than I'm gonna lock in for 30 days, I'm gonna lock in for 3 months with the intent of going back to an old lifestyle or shifting away from those habits afterwards. What do you think is going to happen when you stop doing the thing that got you to the goal? Hello? Just like referencing a gymnast, they're cycling through their training as they do, right? But if they stop the cycle, they step away from gymnastics, if they step away from their sport, let's say they take 2, 3 years off, right? And they come back, sure, their body will still remember. They still have the muscle memory and the air awareness, but they'll be out of form. They'll have to work to get back to that shape to do some of the things that they used to. It's the same with all of us. And we can apply that fitness lesson because that's often more practical and easier to see to our lives and to all of the things that we engage with. So I hope this video got you thinking at the very least. I love topics like this, just kind of deconstructing what it is that we use as our motivation to fuel us and thinking that we need to be in a rush towards something to figure something out when that's not really necessary. But I really hope that you like this video. I took a little bit of a gap after graduating. I think I posted my previous video in in April, and didn't post again until June. But to be honest, I was a little burnt out after graduating. I feel like this is a great place to put that. So I was a little bit exhausted after graduating and just really needed a break. So I took my time, allowed myself to take some time away. But my whole point is that I didn't give up. I didn't undo any of the results that I had done before, right? Because I had already been posting consistently. I had 6 videos out on the revamp of this channel, right? I took some time away, not too much time, but I gave myself time to relax, to enjoy my accomplishment, but I'm back to it, right? I'm filming again and I've reintegrated this back into my life, rebuilding the routine, making it a habit again as it was before when I got the first section of videos out in the earlier part of this year, right? So I think that's a good lesson and just an example of how we sometimes feel like it's the end of the world when we take a step back from something or when we are just really seeking some balance in our life. Usually if we need to take a step away from something, that's our body, our spirit asking for some type of balance, some type of leveling of the scale so that we can maintain the level that we've been doing. Sometimes we don't hate our job. Sometimes we don't give up the thing entirely. We just need some time away to gain a new perspective, to feel re-inspired again, allowing ourselves the space to do that and to take our time and to go slowly and to not put these unrealistic constraints, time limits, deadlines on ourselves that only adds more stress to our experiences is very, very, very helpful. So now for real, I hope you really enjoyed this video. Stick around for my next ones. I'm enjoying the content that I'm making, but until next time, bye for now.